Hooper?
I'm on a women kick lately.
What are you winning?
Women kick.
Oh, a women kick.
Although,
well, what are you women?
I'm winning some points with the female audience is what I'm doing. I found myself unintentionally, like I said this in the Barbie review, and I put out this newsletter that was like all women stuff. It was like the book by a woman, and I was talking about Taylor Swift and Barbie and and Karen Gillan, and I was like, oh wow, it happens to all be women. That's interesting. And now I've got 2 movies tonight that literally have the word woman in the title. Also,
man, I was gonna say it was 80 for Brady.
No, sorry. Sorry, everybody. So that happens to be the theme. So if you're listening and you hate women, you probably didn't even make it to this episode. So, which is good. You should go anyways. But I've got a couple movies, and I want to talk about them tonight. So I'm to all concerned, I'll talk about action movies and other shit later. I just allow me some balance in the things that I consume, please.
Yes.
All right. First up,
you're just playing the role of Thanos here tonight. I am.
Balanced
as all things should be.
Either that, or I'm signaling like a fondness for women, cynically for clicks.
The Hoopercast has gone woke.
Oh, it's gone woke. No.
Look at them just talking about women. Just praising all these women things because it's women.
What a cuck. All right.
Why does love, the absence of love, the end of love, the need for love, result in so much violence?
The first up on my liberal beta male list to films to watch is Women Talking.
It was all waiting to happen before it happened. You could look back and follow the breadcrumbs along the path that led to violence. When we looked back, it had been everywhere.
It is a part of our faith to forgive. We would be forced to leave the colonies if we do not forgive these men.
None of you will listen to reason.
We know that we've not imagined these attacks. We know that we are bruised and terrified.
Hope for the unknown is good. It is better than hatred of the familiar. And we could not endure any more violence.
We have been preyed upon like animals. Maybe we should respond like animals.
How would you feel if in your entire life it never mattered what you thought? And we've liberated ourselves. We will have to ask ourselves who we are.
All right, Women Talking is a film about women talking.
Hey, okay, review's over.
Woo! Women Talking is...
I get enough of that at home. Hey, I don't get no respect.
Women Talking is written and directed by Sarah Polley, who is a woman. It's based on Women Talking by Miriam Townes, or Towles, also a woman. And it stars a bunch of women: Rooney Mara, Claire Foy, Jessie Buckley, Judith Ivey, Ben Whishaw, who's not a woman, but pretty feminine, and Frances McDormand, pretty masculine, but a woman.
Oh god. And we're canceled.
And
we
that's
went
it.
woke and got canceled.
There we go. Go woke, go broke. All right, Women Talking is a film.
We're already broke. It's fine. We started broke.
This film came out in 2022. It's a small little movie. You have never heard of it. I'm the first person to tell you about it. Unless I guess you watched the Oscars, because it was nominated for Best Picture.
Yes.
Women Talking is a film about a bunch of ladies who live in like this Mennonite colony, and they discover something. They discover that they are being abused, and they are deliberating about what to do about it. That's the central premise of the movie.
Okay.
women talk. So it's exactly as advertised. You know, the movie is women. A lot of the movie is just this group of women in this like barn attic weighing the pros and cons of leaving this colony. And that's really most of the movie. Okay. What the movie is, though, is it's an exploration of the fallout of sexual assault. The women were all raped and abused, and due to their upbringing and their religious faith, in this Mennonite colony, they're trying to decide the best course of action in response. Like, do we stay and fight? Do we do nothing, or do we leave? What's the best course of action? And for them, like it's essential that it becomes essential for several of them. Like, we can't lose ourselves in this decision. We can't just stay and fight, or like violence isn't a lot of them are arguing like, just because we've been wrong doesn't mean we abandon our sincerely held beliefs and just turn to violence. But we also have to protect each other and protect our children. So how do we do that if not for violence, stuff like that. So it's another movie that feels like it could have been a stage play. We talked recently about The Whale, which was a stage play. This was not, but you look at it and you go, oh, that probably could. That's interesting. Like, there's so few locations. There's, there's a lot of focus on story and character, which is great. And the performances are all really strong here from the cast. Everyone's great. The thing about this movie is that the pace, as you might imagine, is kind of slow. I realized after the film that I missed several key details that I had to read about after the fact, just because I was disengaged in the first half of the film. I don't know whether it's because slow or it was just, it took me a minute to piece it together, like what's actually happening. But these women live in the Mennonite colony somewhere, probably in the Midwest. I don't think they even specify. They learn they've been drugged and raped by the men with like this livestock tranquilizer. Like, they just wake up and they see like the proof of the, and so they find out about it. And so while the men are gone, all the men leave. I get pretty much all the men, except for like two of them, leave the colony to go bail out the rapists after they're jailed, which that's a stupid move. Like, you're just begging for them to plan a mutiny. Rule number 1 of abuse: never leave them unattended. So while the men are gone, they debate whether to stay and fight or to leave. So I'll say this: the movie. So I got this in the library. I don't think it's playing on a streaming service, so you'd have to go rent it. I think it's worth seeing. It's just not going to follow a narrative high and low points that you might be used to when you watch movies. That's the thing about watching independent film. You're going to get a viewing experience that's not probably what you're expecting in terms of things happening. So it's going to be steady, low temperature, kind of like a play is. You watch a play isn't highs and lows. Like, a play is pretty steady the whole time. I think it's healthy to make like every fourth movie you watch or so a film like this, just to keep your sensibilities sharp and not fall prey to the expectations that blockbuster films would foist upon you. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think like the movie, it's interesting. This is the book that this is based on, by the way, was itself based on real attacks that happened on what's called the Manitoba colony in Bolivia. There were real gas facilitated rapes that occurred from 2005 to 2009. It says over 100 girls and women in the colony woke up to discover they'd been raped in their sleep. These nighttime attacks were denied or dismissed by colony elders until finally it was revealed that a group of men from the colony were spraying an animal anesthetic into their victims' houses to render them unconscious. Tao's novel centers on the secret meetings of the 8 Mennonite women who, on behalf of the other women in the colony, must decide how to react to these traumatic events. They only have 48 hours before the colony men return. And so the film, again, it's that's the plot. The discussions are, again, like a all sides playing out argument of who thinks we should stay. Why would they think that? Let's talk about that for a little bit. Let's talk about why this person wants to leave. Who's changed their mind? Oh, this person's pregnant with one of the rapist's babies, but she wants to keep it. And she's also in love with this man who's helping them to escape. Ben Whishaw, if you didn't guess. You know, I don't know. It's an interesting film. I mean, I don't know what I would rate it because, again, you watch it, you're not going to walk away going like, wow, what a roller coaster of a film that was.
Yeah,
you're just going to go, oh, okay, cool.
Yep.
I don't know. It's weird. And I find it so hard to recommend movies like this sometimes because I feel like I'm recommending them to people who don't listen to this show. Like, you know, so I think the general audience will be bored by women talking. I really do.
Sure.
I mean, that's my honest opinion is like my brother is not going to watch women talking. It's there's no hook. There's no interesting plot. It's more of just like an intellectual exercise and it's more of just an appreciation of art, you know? And it's sort of hard to tell your audience, I don't think you're interested in an intellectual exercise or an appreciation of art.
Sure.
But if you watch movies to see shit blow up or to laugh at jokes, I wouldn't watch women talking if I were you, because those don't happen. There's like one or two jokes and how
many explosions? No
shit blows up. I know. Nothing. Yeah. I don't know. But at the same time, again, like if you watch movies weekly, make every fourth one just a total curveball. Like,
sure.
All right. This will be the thing. This will be the one out of left field. We'll watch 3 that we're interested in and that we're pretty sure we're going to like, and we're pretty sure we can predict the plot and we're not going to be surprised by anything, you know, but the 4th one's going to be, all right, now let's broaden our minds a little bit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good call.
All right. The other one is Little Women.
I'm working on a novel. It is a story of my life and my sister's.
Make it short and spicy. And if the main character is a girl, make sure she's married by the end.
Ow, Joe! I want to be an artist in Rome and be the best painter in the world.
That's what you want too, isn't it, Joe? To be a famous writer? Yes, but it sounds so crass when she says it.
My girls have a way of getting into mischief.
Well, so do I. This is Meg, Amy, Beth, and Joe.
I intend to make my own way in the world.
No one makes their own way, least of all a woman. You'll need to marry well.
You are not married, aren't you?
Well, that's because I'm rich.
Joe, would you like to dance with me?
I can't because I scorched my dress. And Meg told me to keep still so no one would see it.
I have an idea of how we can manage.
Joe is a lost cause. So you are your family's hope now.
I believe we have some power over who we love. It isn't something that just happens to a person.
I think the poets might disagree.
We can leave right now. I'll sell stories. Joe. And you should be an actress and you should have a life on the stage.
Just because my dreams are different than yours doesn't mean they're unimportant.
I have loved you ever since I've known you, Joe. I couldn't help it.
It would be a disaster if we married.
It wouldn't be a disaster.
We'd be miserable.
Joe, I'd be a perfect saint.
I can't.
A new play written by Miss Jo March.
Women, they have minds and they have souls as well as just hearts.
I want to be great or nothing.
And they've got ambition and they've got talent as well as just beauty. And I'm so sick of people saying that love is just all a woman is fit for. I'm so sick of it.
There are some natures too lofty to bend.
So, who does she marry?
So you've seen Little Women, Dustin.
I have seen Little Women.
And again, we talked about Barbie recently on the show. So we are back here with Greta Gerwig, who wrote the screenplay and directed this film. At the time, in 2019, this was her second film that she directed. Third film, second studio film. The first being Lady Bird. So this is, again, written and directed by Greta Gerwig, based on the 1868 novel by Louisa May Alcott, which my daughter has actually read, who is 9. And I watched this with her. I got it at the library. I said, hey, do you want to go get Little Women on Blu-ray? You want to watch it this weekend? She's like, sure. So me and her, my wife, watched it. So starring Saoirse Ronan, Emma Watson, Florence Pugh, Eliza Scanlon, Laura Dern, Timothy Chalamet, Meryl Streep, Tracy Letts, Bob Odenkirk, James Norton, Louis Garrel, Louis. I'm gonna go with Louis. No, Lou. I don't know. Chris Cooper. So, Little Women is I think it's like the 7th adaptation of this movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
And there's a really famous one from, I think, 94 or so with Winona Ryder. That was probably the most beloved one before this.
Yep.
I love Little Women. I don't have much to say about it. I thought it was a really strong film that showcased women in the most appropriately complex way, in a really beautiful way. I think it has a great cast, really fine direction, very endearing characters. And specifically the dialogue, it feels really, really modern without feeling anachronistic. And I think a lot of that is just Gerwig's sensibilities. It's her script, it's her direction, her guidance to her actors that shapes this part of the story. And for me, it's essential to the film feeling fresh, especially, again, as it's the 7th or 8th time that this movie's been made. Yeah. I was really fascinated by it. The only thing that was weird for me with this movie is that we've got 4 American sisters played by 4 non-American actors.
Yep.
You've got 1 Australian, 2 Brits, and an Irish person. Yep. Forcing those American accents, and only Florence Pugh and Eliza Scanlon did it like 100% successfully. Yeah. I love Emma Watson, but she can't completely do an American accent. Even if she can get the talking right, it's her pattern of speech and the way she's talking. Like, I haven't any time. It's like, I don't have time. Yeah. That's what you say. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. And Saoirse Ronan, God love her. She's a great actress, but Irish is very hard to hide, I think. And
sure.
I didn't have big expectations about it.
Sure.
But yeah, I really loved Little Women. I can see why it's as popular as it is. And I can see why, for Greta Gerwig, it was like just another feather in her cap. Like, look at what she was able to do with this tried and true source material.
Yep.
And again, I haven't read the book or seen the other films, but like, she intentionally wrote overlapping dialogue, and she played with the ending a little bit to where she sort of took into account that Louisa May Alcott had to deal with the narrative expectations of her own time period. I believe in the novel, the film, the novel ends with her marrying this, person, with Joe marrying this person. And the film, they sort of play with that a little bit, where she's covering that part of the story as she's talking with this publisher about how she's going to end this novel that he will or won't buy. And, he's excited. Well, she needs to be married. And she's like, I don't know. Does she? It's kind of like a narrative within a narrative thing.
Sure.
Anyways, I love, how long has it been since you've seen it? You own this, don't you?
I do. I watched it once in theaters and then once right after I got the Blu-ray. But so it's been since, that year, whatever year that was. Was that 2019?
It came out in 2019. When did it go into theater? It was late 2019. So it may have been COVID by the time you got that Blu-ray.
Yeah, maybe it was. Yeah. So yeah, but I haven't seen it since then. So it's been a while. But I did. I really loved it. I think for me, it's just sort of, hinges on great performances, great direction, and great storytelling. And that's all it is. And so like this sort of always it was for a while, my go-to, where it was like, and I've had several of these over the years where I'm like, look, it doesn't matter. Like, obviously Little Women is designed with women in mind, as its audience. But it doesn't matter. If you can tell a good story, it doesn't matter because it's a good story and I can latch onto it even though I am not a woman and don't have a daughter. I don't, like my experience of growing up as a woman is very limited. Very, very limited. And so, but I can latch on to this. Why? Because it's just good storytelling.
Yes.
And it's just good character and it's just good acting and it's just good direction. And it's just a good movie. And so from the beginning, you latch onto these characters who, by the way, for all intents and purposes, if we're all out always looking for good female characters, this is an example where you have multiple female characters, all of whom have a different voice.
Yes.
And that's a very important thing and a very evidently a hard thing for Hollywood to pull off. Because you either have, it's like Hollywood has two women, the tough woman and the soft woman. Yeah. And that's all we got. And there's no complexity and there's nothing in between. And it's just great to see that there are these different women that all have distinct personalities, distinct voices, and they're all treated with respect and they're all treated as valid characters. And to me, that why wouldn't you latch on to something like that?
Also, Laura Dern's character, the Marmee character, like maybe an underrated representation of, that woman raises 4 daughters for like several years while her husband is alone fighting in the Civil War. And they've got whoever that is that helps out the house. But daughters are, good Lord, I have 1 daughter. That's really hard. And, I can't imagine like 4 of them and then by yourself and, I mean, that's a whole thing in and of itself. But like, I do have 4 kids and I know that it's really hard whenever I am the only one who's with them to constantly be managing their needs. And I can't imagine in the 1800s having to cope with, the lowered employability of women, of being a woman, or the cultural expectations. I mean, like the story deals a lot with the economics of marriage. Like the Florence Pugh character, like Amy, very quickly is taught by her aunt and by others. Like I think the Meryl Streep character, Aunt March, tells her like Joe is never going to marry. She's too independent. Basically, she has no interest in marriage. She just wants to be a writer or whatever. And Meg is in love with a tutor who's not going to make any money.
Yep.
You have to marry well so you can take care of your family. And she's like 13. She's like, okay. Yeah. Yep. Like, and by the end of by the time she, is at that stage, is very articulate and serious and mission driven about accomplishing that. Yep. And it's interesting because that then sparks discussions with my daughter. Like, why do they feel like they have to do that? And, cause she doesn't know. And it's like, well, in those days, like that was a very sad and practical and real concern for a woman, is like, if you couldn't get married, you had no financial security or future. Yeah. And that sucks, it sucked. Yep. And, that's why a character like Jo is so interesting, because she's a this is sort of a criticism, but it's not a criticism. She's a modern, because I don't like it when other stories do this, but but like I tend to not like modern characters who are dropped into non-modern settings.
Sure.
Because I just go, well, of course there's drama here. You've created a character that isn't real, And Disney movies do this all the time. Like Belle. Yep. Oh, we were talking about Belle. They put on that Beauty and the Beast over the weekend too, before we watched this. And I was like, that's the thing about a character like Belle. Like she was talking about like why is Gaston? We were kind of breaking down the characters of Beauty and the Beast, and like my wife said something like, I kind of feel bad for Gaston because like he he's somewhat the one girl he's actually interested in having, like he can't have, but he also doesn't want her for like good reasons. It's kind of like a conquest for him, you know, but Gaston's handsome and he probably, you know, makes plenty of money, but Belle has high standards. And I'm sitting here like high standards that totally wouldn't have existed for a woman of her station in this time period in France, because especially with her father being insane, like her only hope for security is marrying somebody who's interested in her. And the only person that's interested in her happens to be a dick. But because she so lives out loud as like this bookworm reader person who isn't interested in marriage, it's kind of like this whole, that's why everyone thinks she's weird. And it's like the townspeople aren't that crazy. They're very different from the rest of us as Belle. Yeah, she is. And then she comes back in town raving about a beast and a magic mirror. This bitch is crazy, you know?
Yeah, right. Yep.
It's like, so we were explaining like, that was kind of, that was the social climate at the time. And so stories like this, and that's why it exists, because girls today latch on to Belle because she's a totally normal person to us. And we go, what's up with all her neighbors thinking she's weird? And it's like, well, it's because it's like 1780 and it's France. And that's just the way things are and stuff. So this is why kids movies and drama exist, and stories like Little Women exist, because it's a way to sort of explain and to have people learn about stuff like this without having to open like an actual history book and and read it. So in that sense, I mean, again, my daughter's 9, but Little Women, I think, was mature enough to not sugarcoat the themes without being obviously explicit in any way that would repel having children watch it. You know, there's no sex scenes, not that there are in the books or anything, but like, that's, I think, one reason why it's so timeless is that it's not talking down to its audience while still being age appropriate for its audience, which is, I would think, you know, young or pubescent women primarily. So, and it's hard. I mean, like I talked again a few weeks or months ago about Judy Blume. Like, it's a hard age to write for, is the pre-puberty and the puberty age, especially for girls, because you are trying to speak to people who are going through an extremely rapid change in their bodies and in their personalities and life experience. And so anybody who can speak to that audience over decades, that's impressive. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. That's all I got. So
sweet.
That's all for the lady stuff, everybody.
That's it.
Yeah.
We're going to call this episode Men Talking.
Men Talking. Yes. Little Women, as told by two men.
Yes.
All right. Well, okay, cool. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening. And yeah.
Catch you on the flip flop.
Catch you on the flippity flop.